You come to me with a question, though you may not yet know what you are asking. You want to understand why the family that hurt you still lingers in your bones, why their voices whisper through your choices, and why their shadows seem to stretch across the entirety of your life. You want to believe that their wounds were simply cruelty, that their actions left only scars. But I tell you, if you truly desire to know the depths of your soul, you must accept that their shadows have not only wounded you, they have carved the very architecture of your being. Do you not see that the family who hurt you has shaped the deepest corridors of your growth? The pain they inflicted was not just a cage, but a strange kind of key, unlocking the chambers of your soul where your true self waits. Half hidden, trembling, yet radiant, the soul is not born fully formed. It emerges through the fire of opposites, so conflict, misunderstanding, and love intertwined with suffering. Think of the blacksmith forging iron. The raw ore is worthless until it is thrust into fire. Beaten and shaped by relentless blows. Your life is that iron, and your family, whether they intended it or not, was the fire that forced your spirit to find its form. If you have been hurt, betrayed, or dismissed, know this: the pain is not random. Pain is the hammer that strikes the soul, and without it, no true strength emerges. You cannot evolve without dissent. And the family that wounded you, those who perhaps could not see you, who tried to mold you into their image, were part of the great drama of your individuation. Individuation. This word holds the mystery of your destiny. It is the process of becoming who you are meant to be, of peeling away the false masks that you were forced to wear even as a child. The family system, with all its roles, is a theater where you were given your first costume. Perhaps you were the obedient child, the silent one, the caretaker, or the rebel. Each role is both a prison and a teacher. Did you not learn to survive through silence? Did you not discover your fire through rebellion? What you see as wounds are often the very archetypal forces that shaped your soul's foundation. You must understand something vital. The psyche is not concerned with comfort. It is concerned with wholeness. Wholeness requires that we face the shadow, the parts of ourselves that we have exiled. Often, because of family, you were told certain feelings were unacceptable: anger, desire, ambition, even joy. These emotions were pushed into the shadow, hidden beneath the polite mask you learn to wear. But the shadow is alive. It breathes. It calls to you from the depths. It appears in your dreams as monsters or strange figures. It hides in your projections, in the people you hate or admire, for they are mirrors of your own disowned parts. Your family helped build this shadow, but they also gave you the material to work with. If you want to heal, you cannot reject the shadow. They may have created it, but only you can integrate it. This is the path to freedom. Let us not deceive ourselves. The family that hurt you may never apologize, may never even understand what they did. Some parents live in the blindness of their own wounds, repeating the patterns of those who came before them. Generations of unspoken pain flow like a river through time, and you were born in its current. You might think this river is a curse, but I tell you, it is also your source of power. For the one who dares to look deeply into the ancestral wounds, who dares to bring consciousness where once there was only shadow, becomes a healer, not just for themselves, but for all those who came before. When you dare to break the cycle, you are doing the work of the soul. You become the bridge between the suffering past and the liberated future. Do not believe the lie that healing means erasing what happened. The psyche does not work that way. Healing means giving meaning to what once seemed meaningless. It means taking the raw, chaotic pain of your family story and turning it into a narrative of transformation. Your soul is an alchemist, and the wounds of your childhood are the lead that must be transmuted into gold. This is why I tell you, do not run from the pain. It is your teacher. It is the guide that will lead you back to yourself. Consider the archetype of the wounded healer. This figure appears in many myths, from Chiron, the centaur, to the story of Christ. The wounded healer does not heal in spite of their wounds, they heal because of them. Your suffering has opened a doorway to empathy, to depth, to wisdom that could never have been born in a life of ease. Perhaps you do not see this yet, but every time you have felt abandoned, unheard, or unloved, a seed of strength was planted in your unconscious. The strength is not visible at first. It grows in the dark like roots burrowing deep into the earth. But one day it will bloom, and you will realize that the very people who hurt you gave you the material for your transformation. Without their darkness, you would never have known your light. Dreams often reveal the hidden truths about our family wounds. Have you ever dreamt of a house from your childhood? Its rooms filled with strange symbols, doors locked, or rooms flooded with water. Such dreams are not random, they are messages from the unconscious, inviting you to return to the places where your soul became fragmented. In dreams, the family appears as symbolic figures. Your mother might be the great mother archetype, nurturing or devouring. Your father might appear as a father archetype, protective or tyrannical. But these figures are more than just memories. They are aspects of your psyche, inner forces that you must come to terms with. The family lives within you. Even when you leave them behind, to truly grow, you must enter these inner rooms, face these figures, and reclaim what you left there as a child. I know this path is not easy. To look back at the family that hurt you is to reopen old wounds. But these wounds are already there, festering in the unconscious, shaping your choices in ways you cannot see. If you do not face them, you will repeat them. You will find yourself in relationships that mirror the pain of your childhood, drawn to people who wound you in familiar ways, because the psyche longs to resolve the unfinished stories of the past. You will unconsciously seek out the mother who never saw you, the father who never protected you, hoping that this time someone will heal the wound. But no one can heal it for you. It is your work, and it begins with awareness. Awareness is the great light. When you bring awareness to the patterns of your family, you begin to loosen their grip. You see that your parents were not gods, but flawed human beings, shaped by their own suffering. Perhaps they did not know any other way to love. This does not excuse their actions, but it gives you perspective. The soul cannot grow while clinging to bitterness. Forgiveness, when it comes, is not for them, it's for you. It is the moment when you release the chains of resentment and step into the freedom of your own destiny. You forgive not because they deserve it, but because your soul deserves peace. There is a moment in every life when we are called to leave the family story, not to reject it, but to transcend it. This is the hero's journey, the path of individuation. You are the hero who must leave the familiar village, confront the dragons of your past, and return with the treasure of your true self. The treasure is always hidden in the place you least want to look, in the wounds, in the memories that make you ache. If you can face them with courage, you will find that they are not monsters, but guardians of your deepest power. The family that hurt you has written the first chapters of your life, but they do not have to write the last. The pen is in your hand now. Every time you face your pain, every time you choose to respond with consciousness rather than reaction, you are writing a new story. You are becoming who you truly are, not who they wanted you to be, not who you had to be to survive, but the being that your soul has been longing to become since the beginning. The family that hurt you did not simply appear out of nothing. They were shaped by forces older than themselves, by ancestral stories buried deep in the collective unconscious. You may believe your pain is unique, but I tell you that the pain you feel has been felt for generations. It is as though the ancestors, unable to resolve their own wounds, handed them down to you like a silent inheritance. They whisper through your blood, through the fears and desires you cannot explain, through the strange repetitions of fate that seem to bind you. But within this inheritance lies a great paradox. What you inherit unconsciously will control you, but what you bring into consciousness will set you free. Have you ever noticed how a single family wound can echo across centuries? A grandfather who never learned to express love raises a father who fears intimacy, who in turn raises a child desperate for affection but unable to trust it when it appears. This is the tragedy of unexamined pain. It flows like a dark current beneath the surface, unseen but always present. The task of your soul is to stop this current, not by damming it in resistance, but by diving into its depths and finding its source. When you look honestly into your family's history, you may find not only wounds, but also forgotten strengths, hidden stories of resilience that have lived in your blood all along. To see your family clearly, in both their darkness and their light, is to step out of the unconscious pattern and into true awareness. Your family gave you a mirror, but it was not always a true reflection. As a child, you saw yourself through their eyes, perhaps through their judgments, expectations, or neglect. They may have told you who you were, what you could or could not be. And these messages were etched into your psyche like inscriptions on stone. But these are not the full truth of who you are. They are only fragments, distorted images, reflected in a cracked mirror. The work of the soul is to shatter that mirror and see yourself directly without the projections of your family. This is not an act of rejection, but of liberation. You do not need to hate them to free yourself. You simply need to see that their vision of you was limited by their own unhealed shadows. You must learn to recognize the archetypal roles you were forced to play. Perhaps you were cast as the savior, the one who carried everyone's pain. Or maybe you were the scapegoat, blamed for problems that were never yours. These roles are not just psychological, they are mythic. They are stories that repeat themselves across countless lives, across the ages. When you see that you are living out an archetype, you gain the power to step outside of it. You are no longer the unconscious actor on the family stage. You become the director, the storyteller, the one who decides how the play will end. But stepping outside the family script requires courage, for it means entering the unknown. The old roles, as painful as they are familiar. They give you a sense of identity, however false. To let them go is to step into a kind of death, a death of the false self. But this death is necessary for rebirth. The caterpillar does not know that it will become a butterfly. It only knows that it must dissolve completely in the darkness of the cocoon. So it is with your soul. To become who you truly are, you must be willing to let the old self die, the self that was shaped by your family's expectations, by their fears, by the wounds they left upon your spirit. Do you remember the dreams of your childhood, the strange images that came to you in the night? Those dreams were the language of your soul, trying to speak to you even then. In those dreams, you may have seen the truth of your family in symbolic form, a house that feels haunted, a parent who turns into a shadowy figure, or a door that refuses to open. These images are not random. They are messages from the unconscious, urging you to look deeper. The psyche always seeks balance. If your family suppressed your voice, your dreams may give you visions of shouting or singing. If your family denied your worth, your dreams may show you treasures buried underground, waiting for you to claim them. Pay attention to these dreams, for they are the maps to your inner world. The family that hurt you may have planted seeds of fear, but fear itself can be a doorway. When you feel fear, it is often a sign that the shadow is near a part of yourself that you have been taught to reject. Perhaps you fear becoming like your parents, or fear that you will never be free of their influence. But these fears lose their power when you bring them into the light of consciousness. Look at them directly. Ask yourself, what am I truly afraid of? What part of myself am I refusing to see? The answer may surprise you. Often, what we fear most is not our weakness, but our power. You may fear that if you step into your full self, you will no longer fit into the family mold. And that is true. Individuation often means outgrowing the family narrative. It is not an act of betrayal, it is the natural evolution of the soul. Let us speak of forgiveness again, for it is one of the most misunderstood forces on the spiritual path. Forgiveness is not about excusing what was done to you. It is not about pretending that the pain did not happen. Forgiveness is the act of releasing yourself from the chain that binds you to the wound. When you hold on to anger, you are still tied to the family drama, still caught in its orbit. Forgiveness is the moment when you step outside of that orbit and claim your freedom. It is not a gift to them, it is a gift to your own soul. When you forgive, you're not saying, what you did was okay. You are saying, I will not let your actions define me anymore. I choose to reclaim my power. but do not rush forgiveness. It is not a command, but a process. First, you must feel the anger, the grief, the sorrow that you were never allowed to feel as a child. These emotions must be honored, for they are part of your truth. Only when you have faced them fully can forgiveness arise naturally. Like a spring emerging from the earth. It cannot be forced, and it cannot be faked. The psyche knows when it is ready. There is a sacred moment in every person's life when they realize they are no longer the child of their family, but the child of their own soul. This moment often comes through crisis, through heartbreak, loss, or the collapse of the old identity. You may find yourself standing alone, feeling as though everything you once believed is crumbling. But do not fear this collapse. It is the breaking of the shell, the shattering of the old structure that was too small for who you are becoming. In that emptiness, your true self begins to emerge. This self is not bound by the past, not defined by the wounds. It is the eternal spark of your being, the part of you that has always known the truth. When I look at the family wounds of the people who come to me, I see not just pain, but a kind of sacred script unfolding. The soul often chooses the very family that will challenge it the most. Why? Because the soul knows that only through such challenges will its deepest potential be awakened. It is as if you were given a labyrinth to navigate, a dark maze filled with confusion and trials. And yet, at the center of this labyrinth lies the treasure of your own wholeness. The family may have built the walls of this maze, but you are the one who will find the way out. Do not imagine that leaving the family story means cutting all ties. The soul does not seek rejection, but integration. Even as you grow beyond the wounds, you carry within you the roots of your lineage. You can honor your family without being defined by them. You can see their humanity, their failures, their blind spots, their unspoken fears, and still choose to create something new. When you do this, you are not just healing yourself, you are healing the family line. The work you do within your soul ripples backward and forward through time, bringing light to places that have long been dark. The soul does not grow in the absence of tension. It grows where the opposites collide. Within you, there are voices that pull you in different directions. The voice of the child still longing for love. The voice of the adult who wants to break free. And the deeper voice, the self, which whispers from the depth of the unconscious. The self is not the ego. It is not the story your family told you about who you are. The self is the totality of your being, the part of you that holds both light and shadow, both pain and strength. When you hear its voice, it is often quiet, almost imperceptible at first, but it carries a strange sense of truth, as if you have always known it. It speaks not in demands, but in symbols, in dreams, in subtle inner movements that cannot be ignored. Once you recognize them, your family may have forced you to identify with only one side of yourself. Perhaps they praised your intelligence but ignored your sensitivity. Or they valued your obedience while rejecting your wildness. In doing so, they forced you to repress half of who you are. But what is repressed does not vanish. It sinks into the unconscious waiting for the moment when it will rise again. Often it rises through crisis. A life that seems stable suddenly falls apart. Not because of bad luck, but because the soul can no longer tolerate the false life you have been living. When the unconscious erupts, it can feel like chaos, like everything is collapsing. But this is the call of the self, demanding that you integrate what was once rejected. You may wonder why certain people enter your life, why you are drawn to partners or friends who mirror the wounds of your family. This is not an accident. The psyche repeats the old patterns not to torment you, but to give you another chance to heal. The partner who triggers your deepest pain is often the one who is showing you the parts of yourself that still need to be acknowledged. You are not being punished. You are being invited to awaken. If you can see the pattern and respond consciously, you break the cycle. If not, you will repeat it again and again. Trapped in a loop of unconscious repetition. This is why I often tell people your relationships are your mirrors. If you find yourself surrounded by criticism, perhaps it is the voice of your family still echoing inside you. If you attract people who take advantage of your kindness, perhaps you are still playing the role of the one who must earn love by giving everything away. These patterns are not permanent. The moment you see them clearly, they begin to dissolve. Awareness is a great dissolver of illusions. When you bring light to the shadow, it loses its grip on you, but awareness is not enough by itself. You must act. Healing the wounds of the family is not a passive process. It requires that you step into new roles, that you dare to live in ways that your family never could. If they silenced you, you must learn to speak. If they taught you to hide, you must learn to be seen. If they taught you that love is conditional, you must learn to love yourself without conditions. This is the path of the rebel, not rebellion for its own sake, but rebellion as an act of becoming. It is the refusal to be defined by the old story. The soul is not meant to remain a child forever. The child seeks safety and approval, but the self seeks freedom and wholeness. There comes a moment when you must step beyond the need for your family's validation. They may never see you as you truly are. And that is okay. Your life is not theirs to understand. You are not here to fulfill their unfulfilled dreams or to carry their burdens. You are here to live your own destiny, to bring your unique light into the world. The pain they gave you was part of the preparation, but it is not the whole of your story. In many myths, the hero must descend into the underworld before they can rise. This descent is symbolic of what we all must do. We must enter the darkness of our own unconscious, face the ghosts of our childhood, and reclaim the pieces of ourselves that were left behind. This is not a journey of the mind alone. It is a journey of the heart and the spirit. You will feel fear, resistance, even despair at times. But remember, the underworld is not meant to destroy you. It is meant to strip away what is false, to show you what is real. The archetypes that live within you are powerful guides on this journey. The inner child, for example, is not just a memory of your younger self. It is a living part of your psyche, carrying both your earliest wounds and your deepest innocence. When you connect with the inner child, you begin to heal the places where Love was withheld. You become the parent you never had, the one who can hold their child with compassion, who can say, you are safe now, you are enough. This act of self-parenting is not selfish. It is sacred. It is the foundation of true healing. There is also the shadow, that dark twin who carries everything you have been taught to reject. Many fear the shadow, but it is not your enemy. It is your teacher. It holds your anger, your rough power, your unclaimed creativity. When you integrate the shadow, you do not become darker, you become more whole. The family that hurt you often forced parts of you into the shadow, calling them bad or wrong. But these parts are not evil. They are simply waiting for your recognition. When you face them without judgment, they transform into sources of strength. Some of you may resist this idea, thinking, but they hurt me. Why should I thank them? I am not asking you to thank them for their cruelty. I am asking you to see the alchemy that has taken place within you. Pain, when faced with consciousness, becomes wisdom. It becomes compassion. It becomes the ability to see beyond the surface of life, to touch the mysteries that others cannot see. The family that hurt you gave you the raw material for this transformation. Without their darkness, you might never have found your light. The process of individuation is like walking a spiral. You return again and again to the same themes, the same wounds, but each time you see them from a higher level. What once felt like pure suffering begins to reveal its meaning. You see that the family drama was not just a personal story, but part of a larger pattern, a myth playing out through your life. This realization does not erase the pain, but it gives it context. It allows you to step back and see the soul's journey with new eyes. The soul loves paradox. It loves the places where opposites meet. You can both acknowledge that your family hurt you and also see that their actions shaped your greatest strengths. You can both mourn what was lost and celebrate what was gained. You can both feel anger and compassion. To hold these opposites is the mark of maturity. It is the sign that you are no longer trapped in the child's mind of good and bad, but have stepped into the deeper truth that life is always both. Look within yourself now. What is the wound that still aches the most? What is the memory you avoid because it hurts too much? That is where your treasure lies. The psyche is like a labyrinth, and the treasure is always guarded by a dragon. The dragon of fear, shame, or rage. If you want to claim your true power, you must face the dragon. You must enter the wound, not to relive the pain, but to reclaim the part of yourself that was lost there. When you do, you will find that the dragon was not your enemy at all. It was the gatekeeper to your own strength. There is something profoundly sacred about standing at the threshold of your own pain and choosing not to turn away. This act alone is transformative. The family that hurt you may have taught you to hide, to suppress your feelings, to shrink in order to survive. But now the invitation is different. Now life calls you to face yourself fully, to step into the center of your own being without fear. This is where the true journey begins, when you stop trying to fix the past and start allowing the present moment to reveal its depth. The past will never change. but your relationship to it can. And as your relationship changes, your soul begins to breathe more freely. You see, the family wound is never just a personal wound. It is collective. Every family is a microcosm of the larger human story. Our archetypal battles between love and fear, between control and freedom, between shadow and light. When you heal yourself, you are not just healing your own story, you are healing something ancient, something that has rippled through countless generations. In that sense, your personal work is cosmic work. It is the act of bringing light to the darkness that has long been waiting to be seen. There is a quiet strength that emerges when you realize that your growth does not depend on their approval or their acknowledgement. Some families never change. Some parents remain trapped in their own stories until the day they die. If you wait for them to understand you, to validate your pain, you will wait forever. Your healing cannot be held hostage by their inability to see you. You must see yourself. You must be the one who says, I was hurt. Yes, but I am more than my wounds. I am the one who transforms them. This transformation is not instant. It unfolds like the seasons slowly, subtly, with moments of sudden revelation. One day, you may notice that a memory which once brought you to tears now feels distant, as though the pain has softened. Another day, you may find yourself able to speak your truth without shaking, without fear of rejection. These moments are signs of growth, signs that the unconscious has integrated the pain into the larger fabric of your soul. What once felt like a scar becomes a thread woven into the tapestry of who you are, adding depth, beauty, and complexity. Do not underestimate the power of solitude in this journey. Often, the deepest healing happens when you step away from the noise of the family system and allow yourself to be alone with your own soul. Solitude is not loneliness. It is the sacred space where you can hear your own voice. It is where you can listen to the whispers of your dreams, to the archetypes that move within you, to the truth that has been waiting to rise from the depths. In solitude, you begin to remember who you were before the family story was written over you. You begin to reclaim the essence that is untouched by pain. As you grow, you may notice that your family triggers you less. Their words no longer cut as deeply, because you no longer look to them for your sense of worth. This is not because they have changed, but because you have built an inner foundation strong enough to withstand their projections. You have learned to differentiate between their story and your own truth. This is a profound moment of liberation, a moment when you realize that you are not bound by the past, that you are free to live in the present as your authentic self. But do not be surprised if, as you change, your family resists. Systems seek balance, and when one member begins to transform, it often disrupts the entire structure. They may try to pull you back into the old roles, the old dynamics, not out of malice, but out of fear. Change is unsettling. But remember, you are not responsible for their comfort. You are responsible for your own soul. You can love them without conforming to their expectations. You can honor them without losing yourself. When I speak of growth, I do not mean that the pain will vanish entirely. Some wounds will always leave traces. But these traces are not weaknesses. They are the marks of your journey, the proof that you have lived deeply. Just as a tree bears the scars of storms, yet continues to grow stronger, so too does your soul carry the memory of its trials. These scars are not to be hidden. They are part of your beauty. They remind you of the strength you did not know you had, of the courage it took to face what once seemed unbearable. And so I tell you this, the family that hurt you is also the family that gave you the material for your transformation. You cannot change what they did, but you can choose what you will create from it. You can choose to turn pain into wisdom, anger into clarity, fear into freedom. This is the work of the alchemist, the work of the soul. It is not easy, but it is the only path that leads to true wholeness. As you walk this path, you will begin to notice something extraordinary. The very qualities that once felt like wounds will become your greatest gifts. Your sensitivity, once mocked or dismissed, becomes your ability to see into the hearts of others. Your loneliness becomes the ground of deep connection with yourself and with life. Your struggles with love teach you how to love more fiercely, more authentically, because you know what it means to feel unseen. This is the paradox of healing. The pain that once defined you becomes the source of your power. Perhaps now you can see why I say that the family that hurt you shaped your soul's deepest growth. Not because their actions were justified, but because your soul is resilient, creative, and alive with the power of transformation. Life does not ask you to remain a victim. It asks you to rise, to take the raw clay of your experience and shape it into something meaningful. You are not defined by what was done to you. You are defined by what you do with it. In the end, healing is not about erasing the past. It is about embracing the totality of your story, seeing that every moment both the joy and the pain has contributed to the person you are becoming. You are not the same person you were as a child. You are not even the same person you were yesterday. You are constantly evolving, constantly being reborn, and every time you choose awareness, every time you choose to face the truth instead of hiding from it, you step closer to the wholeness that is your birthright. So I ask you now, are you ready to see your story not as a chain, but as a key? Are you ready to claim the power that has been waiting within your pain all along? Are you ready to forgive, not to condone, but to free yourself? If so, then the journey is already underway. You have already begun to walk the path of individuation, the path of the soul. And on this path, every wound becomes a doorway. Every shadow becomes a guide. And every tear becomes a sacred offering to the fire of transformation. Look within one last time, deeply and without fear. See the child you once were, standing in the shadows of the family that could not love you as you needed. See them clearly, with compassion, and say to them, you are safe now. I am here. We are whole. For in that moment, the cycle is broken. In that moment, the past loses its hold. In that moment, you step into the fullness of your being, into the mystery of a life that is not defined by pain, but illuminated by the wisdom that pain has given you. And as you stand there at the center of your own soul, you will feel it, the quiet power, the unshakable presence the profound truth that you have always carried within you. You are not merely the product of your family. You are the living expression of the self, the eternal flame that no wound can extinguish. And as this truth takes root, you will know, beyond all doubt, that the family that hurt you has given you something far greater than pain. They have given you the raw material from which your soul's deepest growth has emerged, shining and unbreakable, like light born from the very heart of darkness.